What's up guys, welcome to another month's subscription box tutorial. Today we've got a cool one prepared for you. This is the Opal lava glowstone ring. This is one of my favorite designs. It looks really solid. First things first, of course I got my safety gear. This is my face shield as well as my dust mask. I don't want to breathe in anything harmful. And then I've got my expanding ring mandrel with the wrench here. Let's go ahead and get into the box. All right, let's go ahead and open this up, see what we got. First off is a blank. This is a titanium ring blank, super lightweight, very comfortable to wear. This will be nice. Then in here we've got two different types of opal, the black lava opal as well as some bright fluorescent red. Then another sticker, those are always nice. And then here's our pigments. It's a red pigment as well as a black pigment, and then some glow powder. This will be really nice. So we're going to combine these all into a ring. The design overall is going to be fairly subtle, but it's going to have a really cool look to it. I really like the way black and red look together. So let's go ahead and get our blank attached to our mandrel. I've got it right here. This is a small mandrel, this is a small ring blank, so I knew I would need the small one. Fit it onto one, there we go. And then you usually want to put it in your lathe to tighten it, but you could sometimes get it tight enough to fit on there just like that. Yeah, there we go. So now I'm going to be taking my opal, inlaying it as well as these two. As far as color mixing, it should be fairly straightforward. If this is your first time watching one of these tutorial videos and you haven't seen me talk about mixing, go back a few videos. A lot of our beginning videos went super into depth about a lot of this stuff. And just watch those. I'll let you know how much to add to get certain colors. But in a couple sentences, all you need to do is you take your glow powder and you select the color you want. You add a small amount of pigment, and believe me, this is very strong. And I would recommend pulling out a separate vial or container to mix it in so that you don't have to use all of it, because if you go overboard, then there's no way to take it out. Anyways, so you have a separate container, you pour this in there, you add pigment slowly, and you keep doing color samples, and you need to get your CA adhesive as you go, because the color will darken up once you get it wet with the CA. So once you've got the color where you are, stop adding pigment immediately, because the more pigment you add, the less this is going to glow. So that's always a constant trade-off that you got to think about. If you want your colors to be dark, rich, and vivid, you're going to sacrifice a little bit of the glow. Sometimes it's worth it, sometimes you want more glow, so that's just kind of up to you guys and user preference. As far as black goes, you have to add a lot of this to get a good black color instead of just a gray. So that's going to really detract from the glow brightness. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to add some red to this, was to give it some color that isn't so subdued in terms of glow on the ring. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into the making. We've got plenty of opal here. The opal particles are fairly small. So what I like to do is I put a layer or two of the glow powder down beforehand. That way I don't bury the opal and get it lost under the surface. Once I'm done with that, then I go ahead and pack in as much opal as I want. And me personally, I think I'm just going to use up all that we've got here. I think this will look great just crammed in with the opal. So that's what I'm going to do. After that, I'll just keep inlaying it up to once it gets above the surface. I'll harden it with my accelerator, then we'll begin the sanding and finishing processes. Anyways, that's the game plan for this. Let's go ahead, mount the mandrel to the lathe, and get right into it. All right, I've got my colors ready to go. As you can see, my black color, I stopped just before black. I could have gone a lot darker here, but this is dark enough. It's that kind of a really dark charcoal. And I did that just to, again, preserve the glow intensity. And then kind of the same thing with the red. I left it a little bit like lighter, more of like a neon red. That way we'll have brighter glow colors, and I think it'll go well with the neon color that the opal gives off. So, of course, you guys can change and modify the way you do it however you want, but I think for me that's gonna produce my favorite results. So I'm ready to go ahead and get onto inlaying. Oh, and by the way, if you have a metal block like this for color samples, I love it, super handy. If you just grab like a razor blade when you're done, as long as they are fully hardened, should just come right off. This is still a little bit tacky, I'll do it later, but they just chip off. It's super handy and convenient. I love doing color samples on these. Okay, now I'm ready to go ahead and put my mandrel in the chuck. Tighten it in place there. I'll make sure it's spinning true. Perfect. Because this ring is so far this way on the mandrel, I'm not going to mount the mandrel right here. Just for safety's sake, I want to be as far away from the spinning chuck as possible. So I'll come out a little bit more like that. That way, while I'm sanding and all of that, it's just a lot less dangerous. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and do some inlaying. Like I said, I'm going to do a couple of layers first before I add any opal. That way the opal doesn't get buried and I'm not wasting it. One thing I'm going to do, something I've decided I want to do, is I'm going to make the colors a little more splotchy in this. Like there's going to be zones where it's just black and just red. I'm not going to mix it so much like I would with other ring designs. And the reason for that is I just want to give each color kind of its time to shine. So you'll notice if you think it looks different from what I typically do, that's the reason for that. You can do it again however the heck you want, so it doesn't really matter. I just think that's going to produce the best results here. So I'm using at first a medium viscosity CA. Timer's done. Just putting a very thin bead down on there. First color here does not matter because this is going to be completely covered up, so this is just filler at this point. Go ahead and sprinkle it on. There we go, we've got a nice base layer. At this point, I like to flip-flop between a medium viscosity and a super thin viscosity. You'll find if you get thin viscosity CA adhesive, it is just so handy and convenient. I'll just do a little demo right now. As you can see, like right here, it's a little bit dry, the glow powder. If I were to take the medium and dab it on here, it'll work and it'll kind of wet it, but it's not going to spread, and sometimes it's a little bit of a pain to get it to spread where you want it. So on the other hand, if I take the thin and dab it on here, look at that, it's like an explosion of just instant soaking into the powder. It works perfectly. So there's pros and cons for using each of them. Sometimes I like to have areas that are a little bit clear in the ring, so I'll do like a big blob of clear, and of course this isn't going to show because it's going to get buried, but later on in the making process I might do that, and I'll give the ring a little bit of depth and some interesting aspects to it. So there's reasons for all sorts of different techniques. If you just get both viscosities, I promise you you'll have a lot of fun just playing with it and seeing what different techniques and patterns and all sorts of different effects you can get by doing that. Anyways, I think that is all of the advice I have as far as the inlay for this ring goes. Again, just inlay it however you want, use whatever technique you want, but I just say, like, pick a technique and stick to it. Don't just like go in here blind and just do whatever, because you're not going to get the results you want and you're not going to learn anything. That's the biggest thing. So make a goal, say, hey, I want it to look like this. I want these kind of swirls. I want it to have this effect. And if you actually try and you're paying attention, you're going to be a lot more likely to be successful at that. And B, if you're not successful, You might be successful in some ways and not in others, but you'll know why. You'll learn stuff. You'll get to pay attention to what's going on. You could see there I was having a hard time getting the glue where I wanted it. Sometimes when the powder is so dry, the glue just won't stick to it. So you really need to pull out some thin to wet it down. And then I'll show you right here. Now that it's wet, this will stay put. So these just go hand in hand. I always keep both of them on me. And it just makes for a much more convenient inlay process. Okay, for real this time, I think I'm done talking. Inlaying of the Opal is going to be super straightforward. A lot of the times I have a strategy or a pattern or just anything that I try to employ for this. I just want to cram as much of it as I can in there. So I'm just going to dump a bunch of it all the way around the ring, and I think that should look really nice. So without further ado, I think I'll just go ahead and time lapse the rest of this inlay process. All right, guys, I got like 75% of the way through inlaying this, and I had an idea. I've never done this before. I want to try to do just clear CA adhesive from this point on. I just really loved the way the Opal looked. The reason I think it looks this way is because I've never really inlaid it all at once like you saw me do there. And it just looks so cool, just kind of so like angular and blocky. You can see just the shape and the form of the Opal. So I'm gonna try that. This might have disastrous results. It might be full of bubbles and gross and bad. But I think it's worth a shot. So if you saw the thumbnail for this video and it looks really bad, then that's definitely why. Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and do it. For this, I'm going to use medium viscosity. That should be the easiest way to do it. And I'll just go over the whole thing several times. I won't use any accelerator until I'm completely done. That can cause the surface to kind of bubble up and turn white and do things you don't want it to do, especially when you're trying to get the glue to be clear. So I'm gonna just go for it and just use pure medium glue. And I might have to wait a couple minutes in between each layer in order for the glue to kind of solidify a little bit on its own. But either way, you know, like if it takes an extra 30 minutes to do this ring, so be it. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. All right, it's been probably about 15 minutes total. I've done 2 or 3 different separate layers. Now I'm ready to go ahead and accelerate it. This whole time I've left the lathe on. That just prevents stuff from pooling and collecting anywhere, so it just keeps it even. So I'm gonna turn the speed up just a little bit. I don't wanna fling the CA glue anywhere, but just enough so that I can get some even coverage here. And I'm gonna stand back quite a ways, like a foot, foot and a half, and just do a big spray with a fine mist. Do that a couple of times. And that's not enough to cure it effectively all the way through, but that should have really helped solidify it, hold it in place. If you do too much, it'll start getting cloudy. So I'm just doing a little bit at first. That helps to jumpstart the drying reaction. I just tapped it a little bit. It's still a bit gooey, but it's getting there. So I'm gonna give this another maybe 30 seconds, and I'll hit it with another spray just like that. I'll give it another 30 seconds, and then I'll give it a spray just directly straight on, and that should fully cure it. At that point, I'll give it another maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. It's a little bit cold out here, so maybe even up to 5 minutes to let it fully cure. And then at that point, that's when I'll break out the Dremel. We'll start sanding down through it. And it should be fully cured, not give us any issues. If it's not cured, we're gonna make a really big mess because we're gonna leave dirt and grime in the glue. So we need to make sure that it's completely hardened, all the way cured. That way nothing gets stuck into it. That way we'll have the most clear and nicest results. All right, it's been probably 20 minutes since I first started with the layers of glue, all in all. And it is rock hard, should be solid all the way through. That's very important. I'm going to do a little cheating shortcut here. I've got a really nice sharp piece of carbide on my lathe here. I'm just gonna shave down probably about 90% of this. That's just gonna save me a bunch of sanding time and a bunch of these Dremel bits here. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna stop once I get about 90% of the way there because I don't wanna hit the titanium. That's just gonna mess it up, make it a lot harder to remove any of the scratches or imperfections that leaves. So once I get to that point, I'll switch over to the Dremel, which is what I typically do. And then we'll just go through our normal sanding and finishing steps. I'm just gonna be very thorough with my sandpaper. I'm gonna start at a low grit. I'm gonna use all sorts of grits in between, and then end at a high grit and finish it up with some Patrick Adair Supplies polish. And we should be done. I'll check in with you guys for the grand reveal of the finished ring. All right, we're finished. It's looking great. I'm gonna go wash it off, get it cleaned up, and we can check it out. All right, guys, here it is. Check it out. Looks so cool. I love the opal. Look at this spot. That's amazing. All the colors that it flashes. I would say the, excuse me, the clear spots, the strategy that we did, really, it honestly didn't make too much of a difference. A little bit disappointing, but that's how it goes. I still think the ring looks amazing. And that was just like a good bit of extra effort for not much of a return. It does affect it a little bit. There's a little more depth to the ring, I would say. But I'd say it's probably not worth the extra effort. But that's okay, the ring still looks amazing. I like it a lot. I like the contrast between all the red and the black. It's really cool. I've got the different zones. There's plenty of black right here. Black and red here. A lot of red right here. So yeah, some rings I like to mix a lot more. This one I left a little more splotchy, and I really like the look for this ring in particular. So that's the video, guys. Here is a really nice, I don't know, I always try to give you guys a super up close macro shot of the entire ring when we're done so we can kind of critique it. If I get it just right in the lighting, it'll highlight imperfections better right there. You can see like some bumps, there's a little bubble there. I should go back and fix this. Maybe I'll do that off camera a little later. Polish got stuck down in there, so I can sand down into there, fix it up, and eliminate that issue. Anywhere else, same thing going on there. So that's pretty typical, even if you do your best and do all the steps properly. A little scratch on the opal there. But all in all, I would say this ring, you know, we're super macro right here. This is larger than life. So when you actually have this on your hand, far away, clear back here, even smaller, you're never going to notice any of those imperfections. But that's what makes a great ring even better, is just fixing all of its flaws. So yeah. Anyways, guys, that was a really, really fun ring to make. I'll have a bunch of photos for you to check out at the end here. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have any questions, do let us know. You can leave them in the comments of this video. And if you're not in our Facebook group already, you really, really should be. That's just super helpful community where there's all of the people who do the sub box, just communicating, talking back and forth. If anyone has questions, anything like that, we've got a wonderful community of fellow makers that love to help out. So yeah, join that. There'll be a link in the description. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next month.